For pretty much my whole life, I've been involved in hockey. From minor and junior hockey, officiating, heck, I even drove a Zamboni and made ice for a few years. And I still play the game to this day. I worked video production for Hockey Canada for a few years, including the 2010 Vancouver Olympics, and then was manager of video production for the Edmonton Oilers for 5 seasons. When I helped document the construction of Rogers Place in Edmonton, I developed a fascination on how these buildings come together. I've visited 34 NHL rinks, and after my time in the NHL, I decided to start this YouTube channel to share with you all that I've learned about them. Who knows, you may just learn something new before you head to your next hockey game. I'm Jeff Nash, and this is Rinks Around the League. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Rinks Around the League. I'm of course your host Jeff Nash. I thought on this episode we'd do a little bit of a deep dive into the history of Calgary's new arena, or as of January 2022, lack of a new arena. Buckle up because there's a lot to unpack. First up, if you're new to the channel, hit me up with a subscription and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Okay, before we get into the current state of affairs in Calgary, we must first, of course, go back in time and briefly visit when the Flames first arrived in Calgary. The Flames were founded in Atlanta in 1972 before relocating to Calgary in 1980. The first home of the Flames was the Stampede Corral. Now, the Stampede Corral opened on December 15, 1950 at a cost of $1.25 million. It was built to replace the Victoria Arena, which was home to the Calgary Stampeders hockey team. The corral was built and owned and used by the Calgary Exhibition and Stampede for the Calgary Stampede every year. It also held various WCHL, WHA, and WHL teams. Now, when the Flames moved to Calgary, they called the corral home for their first 3 NHL seasons. While their new home, the Calgary Saddledome, was being planned and constructed. The timing of a couple of key events would benefit the need and eventually the approval and construction of the Saddledome. First, the relocation of the Flames to Calgary, and the city's bid for the 1988 Olympic Winter Games. Now, you would think these two major items would mean the Saddledome would be a slam dunk for the city. But even in the 1980s, the construction of the Saddledome was a hot topic initially because of its location. Multiple proposals had a negative reception from the communities over land rezoning that would add to costly delays in the Saddledome's early days of planning. The battle over the proposed land that would eventually become this current site of the Saddledome became so bad, then Mayor Ralph Klein asked the provincial government to take over the land designated for the arena to bypass any appeals process and force the approval. This had more to do with the bid for the Olympic Games than it did for the Flames. In the end, the provincial government and the city invoked rarely used powers to overrule planning regulations to allow construction to begin on July 29, 1981. The project was originally projected to cost $60 million, but was then later revised to cost $80 million. Fast-tracking construction resulted in cost overruns, and the final bill came in at $97.7 million. The entire cost of the construction was paid with public money. Both the province and the city of Calgary paid $31.5 million each, the federal government paying $29.7 million, and the Olympic Organizing Committee paying $5 million. With all these cost overruns, there was a public hearing into the reason of the $37.7 million in extra costs. The result of this hearing placed the blame on the project manager, and the cost overruns were required to be paid by the city and the province. When it opened in 1983, the Saddledome served to boost the morale of the city that was experiencing a significant downturn as a result of the international oil market collapse. Sound familiar? But ultimately, the Saddledome did open with its iconic saddle-shaped roof. As the 1988 Olympics neared, the Olympic Committee invested another $1 million to add more seating, boosting its capacity to 20,016. In 1994, the Flames petitioned the city of Calgary to upgrade the facility to add luxury boxes and a new club section, arguing it was necessary to remain viable in the arena. This would amount to an $18 million renovation. A proposal of paying this off with a ticket surcharge was rejected by the Flames, which resulted in media reports of the team threatening to move if council did not agree to the renovations. The Flames denied the threat, but did say that they had threatened to build another rink elsewhere in the city. After several months of negotiating, the city supported the proposal in a 9-6 vote. In the following decades, the Flames would cover the cost of upgrades to the building, including LED rings, sound systems, and a new scoreboard. This is a ton of background info, but it shows that throughout the Saddledome's 39-year history, there's been a rocky financial history and a precarious relationship between the city and the Flames. As the years pass, the Saddledome ages. It's currently the second oldest rink in the league, and its deficiencies over the last few decades are really starting to show that Calgary is in need of a new modern facility. The biggest problem of the Saddledome isn't its capacity or location. It's the roof of the building that puts serious limitations on what events take place inside that arena. I go into a little bit more in depth on the unique design of the Saddledome in a previous episode dedicated to the Saddledome. I'll leave a link to the video down below. Its hyperbolic paraboloid shaped roof is made up of cables and cement slabs. Because of this configuration, modern concerts can't hang rigging, which means almost any large concert doesn't make Calgary a stop on their tours, instead heading north to Edmonton, where there's a new, more modern arena to perform in. This is obviously a problem if you're looking to book major tours to come to Calgary. So with this being the Achilles heel of the Saddledome, there became the desire to build a more modern arena, not only for hockey, but also for modern shows. So as the years start to pile on to the Saddledome's lifespan, talks about the push to have a new facility started to happen. Before we dive into this part of the timeline, it's important to identify the key parties involved. Keep in mind, some positions and names have changed over the years. The Calgary Flames Limited Partnership was founded in 1980. In 2012, it was reorganized as the Calgary Sports and Entertainment Corporation. They currently own the Calgary Hitmen, the Calgary Flames, the Calgary Stampeders, the Calgary Roughnecks, and the Stockton Heat. Currently, they're comprised of 5 owners. Canadian oil sands financier Anne Murray Edwards, ranked the 32nd wealthiest Canadian at $1.5 billion. Alvin Lebin, president and CEO of Belmont Investments Limited, estimated worth at $45.3 million. Alan Markin, former chairman of Canadian Natural Resources Limited, net worth around $670 million. Jeffrey McCaig, chairman of Trimac Transportation Group of Companies, and the late Byron Seaman. And the other major player in these negotiations, of course, is the City of Calgary, who's comprised of elected officials. The mayors during this latest arena deal saga was the previous mayor Naheed Nenshi and the recently elected Yoti Gondek. Talks about the new arena in Calgary starts back in January of 2009 when then Flames co-owner Harley Hodgkiss stated that the new building is needed to keep the club viable. Later that fall, the team's then president Ken King says that the Flames have been in contact with construction and architectural firms on moving ahead on a new arena with hopes to break ground as soon as we can. This movement gained more traction when the commissioner of the NHL, Gary Bettman, visited Calgary and declares that if the Flames are going to continue to be successful and stable, ultimately they're going to need a new arena. Then the political game for the arena's funding starts when on September 9, 2010, the then Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, talks about committing federal funds to build major sports venues in Canadian cities. This is met with provincial opposition, with the then Premier Ed Stelmach saying that the province wouldn't earmark funds for such projects. This is echoed on the federal level in 2011 by then Immigration Minister and Calgary MP Jason Kenney, who said Ottawa wouldn't directly contribute to new sports arenas but suggests gas taxes could potentially pay for them. In mid-2011, the Flames president Ken King pegs the project on the new arena at a 2 to 5 year project, saying that the Flames have been putting a lot of time into the project. A few years pass, and in the summer of 2015, the Calgary Sports and Entertainment Corp officially unveils the $900 million CalgaryNext vision, which would see a massive sports complex that would include the Flames' new arena, a new football stadium for the CFL Calgary Stampeders, and field house, all constructed on the downtown's west end. This very ambitious and very costly proposal would solve a few issues facing Calgary sports teams, that being the aging of the 2 major sports venues in the city, the Saddledome and McMahon Stadium. But the $900 million price tag was tough for citizens to digest, even in the rich oil and gas city like Calgary. It was even more difficult to stomach when in 2016, a city analysis pegged the cost of CalgaryNext proposals at $1.8 billion, almost doubling the CSEC's earlier estimate. Later that year, CSEC accepted the offer from the city to consider a Plan B that would see the new Flames arena in the vicinity of the current Stampede ground. In late 2016, Ken King says the CalgaryNext proposal is on pause, with the Flames parent corporation now negotiating with the city on Plan B and proclaiming that 2017 should be the year that we drop the flag and actually get past the starting line and into the race to get some serious work done. As Calgary heads into the civic election in 2017, months of negotiations were dead. In September, the mayor, Naheed Nenshi, revealed that the deal with the CSCC was rejected. Then on May 28, 2018, the City Council voted 21-1 to restart talks regarding the replacement for the Saddledome. In 2018, the city was putting together a bid for the 2026 Winter Olympics. In this proposal, it was believed that a new arena would be part of the infrastructure upgrades, much like the Saddledome was part of the 1988 Winter Olympic plans. But the citizens of Calgary voted down the proposal in a non-binding vote, with 56.4% voting against the Olympic bid, thus theoretically killing another bid to build a new arena in Calgary. Then on July 22, 2019, the city and CSCC unveiled terms of a tentative 35-year agreement, with both the city and the CSCC putting $275 million towards the $550 million building. The city would eventually be putting in more money to cover the demolition of the old Saddledome. The city would own the new event center, while the CSCC would be responsible for its operation, maintenance, and would keep all the revenue during the 35-year lease. Included in this deal was a non-relocation clause for the Flames. Some other details that came out of the deal was that the city would get a 2% ticket surcharge and $250,000 per year for the first 10 years. In July 30th, 2019, the City Council voted 11-4 to ratify the pact to build the new event center in Victoria Park, with construction aiming to start in 2021. Everything was looking good for the project and the Flames' new arena. But then news of the arena fell silent for a while. No updated news or renderings coming out of the construction or any further details. But then in April of 2021, the arena deal was again put on hold as costs started to pile up, and the Calgary City Council had concerns over budget overruns. The CSCC had additional demands for the city, which were rumored to include an additional $70 million from the city, the removal of the Calgary Municipal Land Corporation as project manager, control over traffic around the new arena, and additional land during a closed-door meeting. Then later in the summer of July 2021, the city announced that the costs had ballooned from $550 million to $608.5 million. To address these cost overruns, the city and CSCC both agreed to put forward an additional $12.5 million, and the Flames agreed to cover any cost overruns from this point forward. With this new deal in place, it really did feel like everything was done, and shovels would be starting to break ground. In fact, if you've been to the area itself, a bunch of demolition has already taken place. The Stampede Corral, trade show halls, and the pedway have all been demolished. Flame staff were already in the planning stages of covering the beginning of the construction, due to start in January 2022. But then right before Christmas of 2021, a tweet from the new mayor of Calgary, Yodi Gondek, stated that talks with the CSCC resulted with the Flames pulling the plug on the deal. Why this time? Apparently, it's over more cost overruns of climate mitigation and road sidewalk right-of-way issues, which of course, according to the new deal, would mean the Flames would have to cover those additional costs. The costs included $4 million in solar panel installations that was part of additions put forward by the city, which in the grand scheme of a $600 million arena deal just speaks to the delicate and at times hostile relationship between the city and the Flames. The deal was officially terminated in the new year, bringing a halt to all the work on the project. So far, it's estimated that $23 million has been spent, the city spending $11.5 million on the project thus far. So what does this all mean today? Well, in short, the Flames will have to stay at the Saddledome until a new arena is built. But unless things get signed and details finalized very soon, the Flames could be without a new arena for another 3 to 5 years. And even if the deal does get finalized, based on previous history, who knows if things turn sour at any point during the construction. As you can tell, the Flames and the city have a very rocky relationship. If you were able to sit through all that information in this video, you can tell that even from the 1980s, using public funds to build a building for a private organization is a contentious issue for the city and its citizens. On one side of the issue, one could argue that public money should be only used for important things that are in dire need of public money. Roads, hospitals, schools, infrastructure, etc. The COVID-19 pandemic has only amplified the need for more funding for these public services. On the other side, advocates of using public funds to finance arenas say that these facilities attract concerts and events that help stimulate the economy. Both sides will use media to score points to support their cause. The city will scrutinize every dollar spent to make sure it's spent appropriately, and the Flames will most likely threaten to move the team to another city and really play up their community involvement and financial impact with local charities, etc. It's a political battle we in Edmonton are far too familiar with. No matter which side of the debate that you're on, there is one question I'd like to pose. Why are teams in Alberta the only ones to heavily rely on public funds to finance their arena projects? Now, some arenas, like Winnipeg and Ottawa, for example, have used public funds to help with some infrastructure costs, to reach deals with land or tax exemptions. But the majority of funding of all the Canadian teams, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, Ottawa, Winnipeg, has all been with private dollars. This fundamental question is something I would love an actual economist to answer for me. Having these facilities privately financed just eliminates a lot of headaches and controversies around these types of projects. I'll leave a link to an excellent John Oliver piece that explores this very topic about NFL's football stadiums in the States. If you're in the sports entertainment world, a new arena is a must for the Flames. The bigger question for those who look at the whole picture, not just sports and entertainment, becomes who should pay for it? Will the posturing of Flames ownership threatening to relocate the team in order to secure funds to build it work? History has shown that this tactic has worked in the past, but Flames ownership has to be careful with this because if they're counting on the city to look like the bad guys in all this, past history suggests that the citizens of Calgary simply don't like the optics of using public dollars to help pay for the palace of million-dollar athletes. Just look at the recent vote for the Olympics. It was an unpopular topic in the city that has hosted one of the most successful Olympics in its history. I would anticipate that a deal does get done and that it'll look very close to what's already been agreed upon. Okay, now it's time to hear from you. What are your thoughts? Who do you think wins this tug of war about funding? Do you think the deal gets done? Do you think the team moves? Write your comments down below. It's always a very heated debate, so keep it respectful, and I can't wait to read what you all have to say. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching.